I think the problem President are always going to have is because they're under the same management and because they're also a masked band, they're constantly going to be compared to Sleep Token, which I think could end up being incredibly frustrating for them from a musical standpoint. I think for whatever reason, people really love to say, oh, this band is like this band. Like there always needs to be this weird point of comparison. And I think that whole thing of pigeonholing is not the way to approach any type of art, particularly music. First thing I'll say is I really like that drum beat. Like, you could have done something very kind of passive, kind of boring there, but it's very driving that. And there's some really nice kind of like atmospheric things happening in the background there as well. There's kind of like this plucky guitar happening is very low in the mix and it's quite reverberated as well. But there's some interesting stuff happening there sonically, I would say, which is quite cool and separates it from like the heavier like rock or metal sections of this track, which is, I always like songs to feel very distinctive in their own sections, if you see what I mean. And this definitely achieves that.
We all choose to find hope, because hope is choosing to find meaning in a meaningless world.
All right, I like that chorus. I do like that. I'm a big fan of the way that the kind of more melodic vocal really nicely transitions into the screaming. And then that kind of like, where is it? That scarum bit. That's kind of cool. I'm a big fan of as well of using like screaming as a hook. I think sometimes screaming can feel like it's just there because it's almost expected of a certain style of music, but they're really using that as like a hook in the chorus. Like interesting use of screaming versus the more melodic vocals. So far, I like this. That's a sick drum beat as well. There's some interesting stuff happening there, like with the percussion as well. Like, obviously, drummer's gone onto one of those little electronic pad things there. Kind of like a strange, disjointed feeling beat. It sounds like there's some kind of percussion, unlike the offbeat as well. But I like that. I like how it kind of feels a bit disjointed and a bit jarring versus like the rest of the track as well. One thing I got to say that I'm not as much of a fan of is the vocal treatment of the front man. Obviously, a lot of people speculating that it's Charlie Simpson. I personally don't really care. I can just see this as a piece of music in itself. I have no problem with the use of auto-tune. I think go crazy with auto-tune if you want. It's a cool tool to give a certain vibe. And I particularly like using it like in amongst like heavy rock or metal just to create that separation, right? But I feel like the vocal is just completely like flooded with like too many effects. Like there's too much stuff happening where it does feel like they are deliberately trying to hide the identity of the frontman, but it's at the detriment of the sound. It's very like muddied and stuff. That's my issue with the track so far, I would say. What a nice way to end there on that like harmony. That is really nice. On the whole, I'm pretty impressed with that. I think it will definitely be more of a grower, but I think there's some interesting elements in there. Like I said, I think the pitfall of this band, which is a real shame to be honest, is that they are going to be constantly compared to Sleep Token. I already see like a lot of talk online of people saying like, oh yeah, they're not as out there as Sleep Token, they're not as inventive as Sleep Token, the song's a bit more safe, a bit more ordinary. Like, they believe it or not, just because they wear a mask and there's some kind of lore and secrecy, hidden identities and stuff to this band, that does not mean that they have to be exactly like Sleep Token, right? That doesn't define them, and it doesn't mean they have to sound like that in order to be good. I actually think this is a really nice track. I think there's some interesting things happening, like sonically. I think lyrically it's pretty cool. I think, like I say, I think it would definitely be a grower, but cool song, man. I'm excited to see what this band bring out next. I hope there's definitely some momentum that they've built, and I hope they ride that wave nicely and don't wait too long until they bring out another track. But guys, do let me know down below in the comment section what you think of Precedent so far, and of course send in your recommendations for songs that you want me to listen to the first time. Hope to see you on the next video, guys. Appreciate you watching. Catch you very soon.